from Screen Junkie Studios in the heart of Los Angeles, this is Screen Junkies Movie Fights. Now your host, Andy Signore.
Hello, Screen Junkies. Welcome to another episode of Movie Fights. This is going to be a good one. I got three great fighters here, bringing some amazing topics such as, what's the best movie featuring Morgan Freeman? That's tough. Who should replace Stallone as the leader of the Expendables, and who would his team be, or her? And what will be the biggest summer blockbuster of 2017? So much fun stuff. So stay tuned. If you're watching live, use hashtag #MovieFightsLive on Twitter. And helping us fact check today, Lon Harris is stepping in for Dan.
Hey,
happy to have you here, Lon.
I'm delighted to be here, as you can tell by my jumping in early.
Yes, you are great at fact checking though, so I know you'll help me today. Next to you, Travis of Marvel. Welcome to the fan cam.
Hey, what's up, guys? Cowabunga dudes.
Yeah. Wait, are those?
Long-time fan. Glad to have you back. And now, you can say it, but let me beg our guest. So happy to have our guest. We cut to the wide. First up, he's film critic at Crave Online and host of Canceled Too Soon podcast. It's William Bibbiani.
Ooh, great. Now I'm stuck with that forever. Thanks, Andy.
William LaGuardia, the Beast from the Schmodown.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I've been bugging you about this for over a year now.
I know.
And that's only just now.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
hey,
you're here.
out. So I'm going to make the most of it. Yeah. I'm going to try to argue extra hard.
All right.
Just for you.
I'm looking forward to it. Next up, returning once again, host of Pop Trigger, Young Turks, and the creator of Ghost, Blowjob Ghost.
Yeah.
Brett Ehrlich!
Hey, good. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah.
Every time
fans have missed you.
The pressure gets less and less as I realize I'm never gonna win this game.
you might today.
I hope.
We have two newbies here, and last but not least, I'm so happy to have them. Producers of films like Lone Survivor, Dread, The Gray. It's Addy Shakur. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. So do I put these headphones on?
Whatever you want.
It's your call.
You don't have to.
It's your life.
Yeah,
Live however you want.
I feel like I'd be like
There you go.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Slick.
Just talking to them. Yeah, make sure the mic's aimed at you, and that's all I care about.
Do you guys have like stickers that I could put to cover the logo?
We should.
Yeah.
Isn't that what like NFL people do to
No,
rebel?
yeah,
that's true.
What's that
So
called?
now you're a shill for Sony.
Greeking. Thank you. I was like, what's the art department call it? Greek the phones.
Because the Greeks first did it on their films, the ancient Greeks.
Yeah. But I want to talk because I'm glad you're here. Thank you for doing this. I love the stuff you've done. The Dirty Laundry. It was amazing. You've done some amazing work. Have you seen? You're a fan of the show and Screen Junkies here? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I do have a. Can I pick a bone with you actually on the fly?
Well, let's start.
I want to do this. I'm going to start a mini fight even before we go because I'm honest. I have a bone to pick with one of your marketing departments of one of your movies, sir. I love The Gray, but holy shit, when I went to that movie, I wanted to see Liam Neeson punch a wolf.
That's how I feel about Non-Stop. I feel like Non-Stop should have ended with Liam Neeson punching the plane into unconsciousness.
No, but I'm curious. We've actually made that joke on here. Was there? Did you have any involvement in that? Was that? Did you have any concern about like selling the? Because that was such a cool scene.
Here's what I'll say. Like, I don't believe in the theatrical release movie model thing because I think there's an element of having to dumb it down.
Yeah.
In order to you're appealing to the lowest common denominator, right? And if it's too complicated, it becomes hard to market.
You have to do it in like one shot or one image, or
right.
And they want to just make it as simple as possible.
That's a cool image, but obviously the movie's more than that. And then when you sell it,
a lot of movies have that problem, right? Oh, yeah. And if the movie's like too complicated, then they're like, we don't know how to market this.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that what we're talking about here is an epidemic in the way we consume media right now because we're inundated so much, so you just kind of have to carve out like a little niche. Well, Love Actually is behind me. Is that Love Actually?
It's a
sort of
Love
Love
Actually with all the people.
You're fine. You're fine. You're not actually showing for Love Actually.
You're not actually showing.
Like, how'd you
It's all of us.
Screen Junkies play each Screen Junkie person.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so
it's
Andy
fan
would be
made,
Kevin
fan
Smith.
posters.
Yeah.
But you're saying so you were more involved in the movie than worrying about the marketing of it.
You know, people ask me a lot of times like, "What's the use of a film critic nowadays?" And I'm like, I think one of the things is we can actually translate marketing.
Yeah,
because we actually see the movie. Like marketing will tell you, "Hey, this movie is a romantic comedy. You're gonna love it," and then you see it. It's like this is actually a dark drama, and they lied to you.
Yeah,
and you should know where
That's
your money
why we
is
do
going.
honest trailers.
You know why I love you?
I love you too, Adi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my man over here interviewed me in 2015 when The Voices was coming out.
Great movie.
Thank you.
Legit great movie.
Thank you. Dude, Lionsgate completely ruined the marketing of that, right?
I don't know what they were selling.
Dude, they were selling a rom-com,
Yeah.
but like where 20 minutes in, Ryan Reynolds becomes a serial killer and like kills all the women.
That's actually one of the most disturbing serial killer movies I've seen in a really long time, because unlike almost any other serial killer movie, it really gets you inside the head of the homicidal maniac to the extent where you really see why he thinks every horrifying thing he's doing is normal. And so when you actually break that, it's infinitely more terrifying. That movie is really, really underrated.
I want to keep
this
why I wanted to make that movie because I literally have I deal with depression. I deal with a lot of the same things that he was going through. I've never killed anybody, but
that we know of.
today.
But the moment that became put through the marketing meat grinder, it gets reduced down into
here's what it's about.
Well, we have
Yeah, here's what we think you'll like.
Here's what you think you're going to buy a ticket for. All right. Well, anyway,
here's what we can do with clips from the movie.
I won't blame you, sir. I'm a fan of the film and a lot of your work.
Never work with me again, but I don't care.
But they should have marketed themselves as a lion with a gate.
They have a lion with a gate.
Yeah, there's
like
where is that lion's
The lion
gate?
has to punch the gate.
All right, let's do this. You guys know how this show works. I'm excited to do it. You guys are watching live. Great. Let's get to it.
Come on, let's get nuts.
I want to fight you.
You want to fight?
Let him fight.
You stop this fight, I'll kill you. I can do this all day.
We will get a new montage someday.
I'm working on it.
There's no
it's
reason
not your
to
fault.
get a new
People
movie.
keep
It's
asking me.
perfect. There are
We're
no other
working on
fights
it.
in
Nah, but
movies.
it's an old one.
first
All
one.
right, question 1. The question is, what non-Terminator film franchise should Arnold revisit or take over? Now the reason. Oh, that's not what's up there.
What's
What's the order, Max?
No, JT has it. Just switch number 3.
We're there.
JTE,
We'll do it
bane
live.
of my existence. If
I
you've
don't know
ever seen the
whose fault that
Schmodown.
was, but sorry, I have it on the script as that Terminator film. Is the rest of them in order, Max?
Yeah.
Great, cool. There it is.
Cursed.
Now, what non-Terminator film franchise should Arnold revisit or take over? This is coming up because the rumor now is Arnold is saying he may do Terminator again. Of course. Why? Because he's got nothing else to do.
He's got, he'll take what
he
he
hasn't
can
learned.
get.
So
It's interesting because I feel
taking
like Terminator's completely irrelevant now because the Terminator already won.
yeah.
Kind
It
of.
never ends.
Never.
It never finishes. It
So
keeps
let's
going.
throwing Terminator out of it. What
Yep.
should he revisit? A movie of his own, or just a franchise in general? I want to hear this. William, going to you.
There
Bibbs.
are two very different ways to take this. You want to just throw him into an existing franchise. You could probably fit in a lot of different cool ones. But I'd rather see him, if he's going to do the Harrison Ford thing, the thing Schwarzenegger's doing a couple of times already, revisiting his existing stories, franchises, films. Why go back to the ones that were good? Go back to a bad one that had a great premise, something you can do more with today than you could back then, which is why I think Arnold Schwarzenegger should go back and remake The Last Action Hero.
Ooh, okay.
It is a I know. And let me tell you something. That movie sucks.
It got me.
That movie
photo got me.
sucks. That movie blows. But you know, the thing about Last Action Hero is it's a fun premise. It is about going into the world of movies, and movies, a world in which everything is heightened, in which everything is broad and fun and action-packed, and then having characters in the movies go into the real world and discovering real-world problems. There's a lot to it that you can really, really explore. But today, now, with Arnold Schwarzenegger's career the way it is, looking back on a history that is sometimes brilliant and is sometimes incredibly spotty, you can actually add some pathos to this. You can make the protagonist Arnold Schwarzenegger. Going into his earlier movies, some of them they need to be fictionalized versions for rights reasons, fine, but for the sake of argument, he's going back into Predator. He's going back into the Terminator movies. He is encountering versions of himself. This could be like JCVD, but writ large, to the extent where at the end of it, you have basically every Arnold Schwarzenegger from throughout cinema history. The good, the bad,
So
the
Jingle
incredibly
All the Way is
unfortunate.
in there?
Jingle
Turbo
all
Man?
the way, all the embarrassing stuff.
Okay.
Let's actually make him be honest about this. Have them confront each other. You can bring Ian McKellen back as Death. Have them actually confront the idea of a movie star's mortality. In terms of your legacy, your younger films will last forever, your older films will be forgotten. Nowadays, when movies are getting lost, 35mm prints are dying, and things that are on digital streaming can disappear at a moment's notice, maybe, just maybe, the real threat to a fictional character is having your work forgotten and deleted, and that is something we can confront in an interesting, exciting, action-packed way.
All right, great. Brett, what are you doing?
I personally would like to make some money off of this movie.
That was not one of the criteria.
Yeah, but hey, I'm not saying this makes my idea better or worse. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. So we need to look for a franchise that is ready for Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm saying, let's not go back and retread over old used garbage. Let's put him in something that's on its way up in the world, that has proven to be fertile ground for an Arnold Schwarzenegger type, even though they must feel so stupid for not having thought to put him in there. And that is Fast and Furious. It goes over the top more and more each time. And what way to be better at going over the top than to have the Terminator himself as the main antagonist in the Fast and the Furious movies? What's their bread and butter so far? Over the top man meat. We got Dwayne The Rock. We got Vin the Diesel. We need to add Arnold to Schwarzenegger. That will round out that love triangle right there. And they go at each other. We know that Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you see him driving around town in Los Angeles, he's in the giant Hummer, and he's already been acting this out for years around pulling out of the Coral Tree Cafe in Brentwood. And then not only that, but we will also be able to tap into subconsciously with the kind of meta nods that are so great and actually play well against all odds in Fast and the Furious, which is him on the motorcycle, T2 style, with the giant shotgun.
Will he say, "I'll be back"?
He say, "I will return shortly," because he can't. He can't say, "I'll be back."
He can't.
I think he can. He's done it in Expendables.
Oh yeah, right.
He's good.
Abby, what are you picking?
You know, it comes down to like, who is this question for? Is this the best move for Arnold's career? Is it what I want to see?
For the general public.
For the general public, I would say Deadpool. Because, you know, I've always looked at Cable as effectively Clint Eastwood meets the Terminator. And Schwarzenegger is very much in that Clint Eastwood archetype. And obviously different generation, so he's touching on different touchstones culturally, but he's very much in that Clint Eastwood archetype. I mean, you could totally see him in a movie like Gran Torino now. So I would have him play Cable. I think it would benefit both parties, because it would effectively be him playing the Terminator but not calling it the Terminator, because, as we've discussed earlier, like, the Terminator's just it's a dead concept because the Terminator's already won. We all have the Terminator in our pocket, and we talk to each other using the Terminator. It's called a cell phone.
That's what happened in Genesis. I forgot.
That was what they tried to do in Genesis.
Thank goodness I didn't.
Deadpool versus Fast and the Furious versus Last Action Hero. Let's hear it out.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now because I think Adi had a good point about who is this best for? Is this best for Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is it best for the fans? And I think the idea is somewhat appealing, maybe, of having Arnold Schwarzenegger come in and be Deadpool, but I think that is...
No, not Deadpool.
No, sorry, and be Cable. My apologies. You're right. Word salad. I think that's appealing, but I think that is way more useful for Arnold Schwarzenegger because there are a lot of different people who can play that role. Who can play the role, I think, with a bit more nuance. Also, I'm going to throw this out there. Mm-hmm. Ever since the ending of Deadpool 1, there is no one else who can play Cable but Keira Knightley. I will be disappointed if anyone but Keira Knightley plays Cable. She has owned that role since the moment Ryan Reynolds said those words, and I will be terribly disappointed.
But you mean Domino?
Otherwise. No, Cable.
Keira
he specifically said
Cable.
Keira Knightley should play Cable, and you know what? I think he's right. I think that'd be really, really fun. I think that'd be an awesome, just completely out of left field. You know, you just shows you just how unimportant a lot of these very old-fashioned casting decisions need to be, and you can change various aspects of these characters then not affect the dynamic terribly much at all. And a lot of people left that theater going, you know, I could see it. I think she would actually be kind of cool. You'd have to change a few things around, but not much. All they have to do is be humorless and be like his straight man and be badass.
Yeah, no, I could see switching the
Brett,
gender.
could you see that?
So I can't see this at all whatsoever, guys.
Keira Knightley, she's
you both
awesome.
are just word salading all over my face. Here's what I think about yours is I feel like the idea of going and reinventing a bad movie is a bad idea. Like, it's like, you know what we should try again? Why we should try it again? Because we couldn't do it the first time. I think that if we do greenlight this movie, one of the movies he should, when he goes back through the films he's made before, he should go to The Last Action Hero and stop them from remaking it. in the movie. And then
that might be fun.
Here's a great place to put it.
You go to Last Action Hero within the movie. You just came up with a better version of my movie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And here's
go
where
back
it
to
should
Last
play.
Action Hero, and that's a significant like time cop kind of moment where he has to keep weaving in and out of it, like in Back to the Future Part 2.
let
That's a
Brett
great
go.
way.
Yeah,
And it'll be great as a co-production with me and you as one of those like tummy trouble openings to the Fast and the Furious. Get this, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's German. What number are we on? 9. I get he's Austrian, but he speaks German. Fast and the Furious 9. So I feel like your idea is so heady and over the top that I agree over here with that the Hollywood is going to ruin it because they can't wrap their minds around it. The ins and outs, the meta turns, the back and forth feels like Genesis, and that was a failure.
I'm going to say this right now. You know how you fix that? You just got to get filmmakers who actually
Fast
have
and the Furious 9.
They're going to make Fast and the Furious 9 anyway, and literally anyone can be in it, and it won't matter. You can get literally anyone to play almost any new role in that franchise, and it won't matter.
That's not true. You can't have Justin Timberlake replace Vin Diesel.
I'm not saying replace. I'm saying add character.
That was literally my attempt at a joke. and it totally didn't work.
But I appreciate that.
Blame the
You can't replace the characters. The characters are too beloved. But if you
the
introduce
leather and the black, it's not funny.
They've got Charlize Theron coming in to play the bad guy in the new one, and she's awesome, and I love her in everything. But let me tell you something: if they had got Keira Knightley to play that same role, I'd be fine.
No, that's not true at all. We need
we need Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Fast and Furious for those movies
First of all, we need at least 15 Fasts and Furiouses.
I agree with that, but do we need Schwarzenegger for them to get better?
We do. We absolutely do.
You think the problem with the Fast and Furious movies is that they haven't had Arnold Schwarzenegger in them yet?
The aspect of your pitch that I like is like the nods to previous Schwarzenegger roles, but I think that's better served because the most iconic to me is him when do you remember he's on the motorcycle driving through fire?
Yeah.
And he did that thing with the shotgun and it goes around his head.
It would be cheesy as hell in a Fast and Furious movie, in a movie that's actually dedicated to his own fan service. You can do this. And you know how you fix it? You just get the directors of 21 Jump Street.
He's so
guys who
meta.
can take a dumb idea and make it brilliant.
I would say he's so meta and cheesy at this point that the one place he would work best is a Fast and the Furious movie where that works. That's why I like it. It's over the top.
Why not Deadpool?
Why not Deadpool? Because before we put Arnold Schwarzenegger into it, we need to let this franchise grow on its own with its own legs and keep it in the same like age demographic that it's in, and let like Ryan Reynolds own that movie.
And Keira Knightley.
And Keira Knightley, I agree.
Thank you.
So one time I'm going to agree, Keira Knightley.
Respect.
What age demographic is Deadpool in?
All ages that people live in, but Arnold Schwarzenegger appeals to ages older than people who are alive.
I think we have an issue here because Arnold Schwarzenegger is an important and iconic figure in the film industry. Yeah. He dominated 2 decades of genre cinema, and a little bit beyond in either direction. But here's what I'm going to say about that is that he is one of those action stars who doesn't have the roles anymore. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme can't get a movie in theaters right now. Steven Seagal can't get a movie in theaters right now. Every time Arnold Schwarzenegger tries to put a big movie in theaters, he can't do it. He'll put out like a fun genre film, like an indie short like thing like Maggie, and he'll be really, really, really good in it. Yeah. But he can't sell tickets anymore. He needs to take himself seriously as an actor and look back in his career and play off of that nostalgia for drama.
I mean, you're right. I mean, there's no veteranship in this business. There's actually no veteranship in the I'm appalled at how badly icons are treated once they're past their quote unquote expiration date. I mean, this applies to women, but it also applies to men. It's studio heads. You know, the moment a studio head gets fired, it's just like, you know, people don't return that guy's phone calls, and you're like, what the hell, man? Like, and you're right, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's a freaking icon, man. That guy's an icon in the sci-fi genre. I mean, some of the best, most iconic, some of the things that literally inspired me were Arnold Schwarzenegger taking chances. He was using his star power to get a movie like Total Recall made.
Total Recall is one of the best movies ever made.
Ever made.
Specifically on the Deadpool thing, I think the fast-talking cheekiness that is part of the Deadpool franchise as we know it now is just something that Arnold Schwarzenegger can't do.
Right, but he's the straight guy.
All right. I think I got it. Come on. What are you going to add there?
Not a ton of facts to check,
Good.
really. The Marvel directory says Cable's main powers are his vast telepathic and telekinetic abilities, which he can use to do a variety of things, including levitate objects and create force shields. There is a very long and complicated explanation of what Biz was trying to explain to us
Yeah.
You did a
about
good
the
job.
virus. You guys get the idea.
Okay.
Twitter really liked the idea of Conan, which nobody said. That was like the #1 most tweeted.
They redid Conan.
No, that's
for Conan.
actually,
I
that's
did, but
actually in
Momoa, they
development.
Yeah, that's a cheat to see something they were actually trying to do, I think.
Yeah, that's why
I think
else?
that wouldn't be fair.
The other one thing from Twitter is a lot of people took issue with slamming Jingle All the Way, guys. Not happy. The audience is
We've
not
gone that
happy.
far?
Do not. What is the one that's worse than that? What did he do?
Junior.
Worse than
Jingle All the Way
Junior
was
is,
a great.
Junior is
was rough.
abysmal.
No.
Junior was
Jingle
rough.
All the Way was a
Junior's
dope
very
film,
bad.
man. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah, I
about,
think
right?
it's a
I
better
liked it.
idea for a movie than it is an
You know
actual
what?
movie.
I'm so much younger than you guys that I watched
Thank
it
you.
as a kid.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, the memory of it was I was
no.
blown away by this film.
For me, my movie for that with Arnold is Hercules in New York. One of the worst stand movies
Oh,
ever made.
yeah.
And it's really
All right,
fun.
anything
You
else,
used to
Lon?
watch that.
No, that's
pretty
it.
drunk.
Okay, it was a little of a messy first round. There was a lot of tangents, a lot going off. So we'll
sorry.
try and organize on this first and the next one. But no, that happens. I just think the veteran there has stayed a little bit more in focus. I got to give Brett the point.
Yes!
His made a little bit more sense, and I heard you knock down that, and I just didn't get enough as to why Deadpool a little bit, but I heard more out of Brett. We're going in. So next round 2, let's stay on the topic. Get in there. This was a tough one too. Anyone's win on this. Best movie. Am I right? Good. Featuring Morgan Freeman, and Brett, you're leading us up. What's the best movie featuring Morgan
The
Freeman?
best movie featuring Morgan Freeman is The Shawshank Redemption. And here's the reason why.
Well, let's hear them all.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eddie, what are you picking? What's your Morgan Freeman film?
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, and then Bibbs.
It's 7. Or if you put the 7 in the middle, it's Sevenin.
Okay, so we got Shawshank versus Deep Impact versus 7. Back to you, Brett. Let's start the fight.
All right, so here it is. First of all, this is a great story. It's a drama. It's written by Stephen King, who's brought us some of the best narratives ever. So that's
Maximum
you got
Overdrive.
You got a pedigree. This is a story of hope. This is a story about friendship, real relationships. I mean, that is the central theme. It's real relationships and people that you get to know over the course in this little nowheresville, the inside a prison where you get to start caring for them. You learn that these people all start out as convicts, but at the end you absolutely love them. You get to see wrongful incarceration, so there's already you get to see a man's quest to avenge himself, to set right what is wrong, and then the sheer amount of identifiable moments in this movie that you can put it on whenever. I look at the other films on this list, and we'll talk about it when we fight, but I don't want to rewatch them. I will rewatch Shawshank Redemption whenever it is on TNT in the middle of the day, because I get
So
to
every day.
And it's like on every
and it's
yeah.
on every day for a reason. And the reason that and it
Because
has
they had the rights to it.
him tunneling through the wall. No, it's because people love this film. It has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. Tunneling through the wall all the way through to when he stands up at the end. Zewataneo at the last scene, and then on the roof. You just remember all these amazing, beautiful, telling, touching scenes that make you feel good.
All right, Deep Impact.
To me, it comes down to what does best movie mean? Right? Best movie to me is simply one thing: cultural relevance, cultural impact, same thing, right? And don't get me wrong, 7, great film. Obviously,
I agree.
Right? Great film. Paradigm shift for Brad Pitt. Put David Fincher on a whole different stratosphere.
Oh, I have to make fewer points. This is great.
And Shawshank Redemption, it's a case study on making a good movie and having it not work right away, but then over time having the audience discover it, right? So obviously these are great films. I'm just simply making the point that, we had a black president. And that was kind of mind-blowing for a lot of people at that point in time.
I'm going to get back to that point. I have a point to make about that. I see why you're saying that. Don't get me wrong. I see the argument you're making, but
I'm making this argument,
Sure.
and I was like living in China. I didn't look like anybody else, and then all of a sudden, obviously Morgan Freeman, African American. I'm Indian. very different. But the fact, for me, looking at that screen and seeing the president of the United States, which at the time, in the 90s, America was like, whoa, like I want to go there. I want to be able to live there. It was awesome, man. It was like, it was, to me personally, it meant a lot.
All right, I can't argue that point because that's subjective. But let me focus on.
It's also best movie. I need more points than that.
That's fine. But like 7. Okay, so listen, he's been in so many great movies. It is ridiculous, and picking any one of them is hard. So I'll grant you that. When it comes down to 7, we have a film that came out of absolute nowhere. When you come to something like The Shawshank Redemption, it has a pedigree. You come to something like Deep Impact, it's a huge blockbuster movie. You do something like Glory, which is a huge epic from Ed Zwick. This is a movie that no one gave a crap about. And as a matter of fact, when they had their test screenings for this movie, it did real bad. Mm-hmm. No one thought anything of this movie. David Fincher was a person that Hollywood wasn't a big fan of after Alien 3. Everyone here had something to prove. Brad Pitt had something to prove. David Fincher had something to prove. Andrew Kevin Walker, the screenwriter, he got his start. I think he was working at Tower Video when he wrote this. Yeah. They all were hungry and willing to take enormous chances, making a movie that is essentially the most dour, stylish, depressing film noir you've ever seen, and then add on top of that an incredibly clever serial killer element that not only is scary, but is also deeply rich, deeply rooted in character and also in cultural commentary. This movie is not just an MTV movie, which a lot of people tried to write it off as at the time. This movie actually helped galvanize the horror industry. We were still repeating over and over again the Silence of the Lambs motifs. And in fact, a lot of people thought 7 was going to be yet another retread of Silence of the Lambs, and it ended up shooting horror in different directions, shooting crime movies in different directions. And I think a significant chapter in genre cinema would be very different if we hadn't had 7 when we had 7. And on top of that, it's damn good.
Aha. Brett? Oh.
So I've done mine. So now we fight?
Yes. We fight.
You
had to
go.
And I agree with you. I cannot dispute anything you said. Except if you remove Morgan Freeman from that movie, it doesn't significantly alter the film.
Okay. So I would go to argue that Deep Impact, the biggest impact was the comments. Not the fact that Morgan Freeman was president. We did get a black president. I don't think it was because Morgan Freeman played the president in Deep Impact. Also, I can't really cite the cultural impact of a film that came out in that summer where the Earth just had a terrible day. Yeah. Like that was like the summer of Armageddon, or like that era of Armageddon and Deep Impact, where it was just another one of those big explosion Earth dies movies.
I'm really listen. I appreciate that you have coming through some very subjective place. This is a movie that meant something to you to see Morgan Freeman in that position. It is not the first movie to have a black president. That was The Man with James Earl Jones.
There's a documentary about this guy Barack Obama. He's also got a black president in that.
That post-states Deep Impact. I'll give you that one.
I'll take your word.
It's been done, but I can't fault you for having that experience. What I can fault you for is looking at not just the casting, the fact of his casting. Because if you want to say like, oh, anyone could do it, you could have picked another black actor and had a similar impact. What you have here is a filmography that includes Glory, The Dark Knight, the Lego Movie, Street Smart, Amistad, all of these. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg, and you pick Deep Impact. Which I don't know, because this is also a movie in which Elijah Wood and Lily Sobieski outrun a supersonic tidal wave on a scooter.
That's a really good point.
That's not a good movie. That's a fun movie, maybe.
Can I hop in here?
Yes, please. Go for it.
I lose this round because I misunderstood the concept, the conceit of the question.
That's okay. But okay,
I didn't realize, because you're right. Deep Impact is not the best movie Morgan Freeman was in.
You had a different argument.
You had the best Morgan Freeman movie.
I interpreted the question very differently.
That's why we've had this problem. It's the semantics of best Morgan Freeman movie versus best movie.
Yes,
So fair. So that's fine.
Yeah. And because you said featuring Morgan Freeman, I took it as, you know how in like rap songs it'll be like a Kanye song featuring Eminem.
Yes.
So I didn't. So when,
I'm glad you admitted it. I was getting worried.
When it was like so your movies are like Morgan Freeman is like the lead character. Right?
So help me here. We're based on their argument so far. Where are you? Shawshank or 7?
7.
Okay, thank you.
I would say okay, good for you. But now I feel like there's a conspiracy.
But here's the thing with
Much
Shawshank.
like there's a conspiracy to frame Andy Dufresne, and we found something to identify with right here. in Shawshank Redemption makes it an awesome
Shawshank
movie.
Redemption is a movie. You asked.
I'm good. No,
I
I'm
didn't
good.
get to defend Shawshank.
I'm good.
I didn't
You don't
get
need
defend
to.
Shawshank. Okay.
The fact that Bibbs was able to take out a player during a round and get him to admit it.
He didn't take me out. He didn't take me out.
He was getting you pretty good. But no, he just pointed out, and I think you had to.
He took me out.
You had to acknowledge the fact that which is I'm glad you could clarify. But William, you get the question. You get the points. 7 is based on these arguments. It was enough. Don,
blow it up.
Based on the comments, what do you got there?
We had a Twitter poll. 57% went for Shawshank, 37% went for 7, 6% went for Deep Impact. They think
So
that's
there you go. 6%.
So there you go.
Very
I
respectable.
think that was
6%.
6% of the population who watched the show being very nice to me. Again, when it said featuring, I thought it was like a rap song where they say featuring
That's on
A$AP
us.
Rocky.
Right.
We've had the semantics problem before. We should have clarified.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lon.
Shawshank was everybody on Twitter's overwhelming favorite. Glory, March of the Penguins, Unforgiven, Batman Begins, and Lego Movie also came up a bunch.
It's a good pick.
A lot of our audience assumed this was about to be a trick question. They thought Addy
Missed
was like,
opportunity.
that guy was a genius for picking Deep Impact. He's gonna nail this
should've.
trick
Would've been a clever
question.
move.
Then it would have been.
It would have been a clever move. It's a Hail Mary
All right,
pass.
going on to round 3. Now, this one's speculative. We don't actually know the answer to this. We have to guess based on what we see and why we're excited. So sell me on why this, what will be the biggest summer blockbuster of 2017. There's a lot of big movies coming out.
Yeah.
What
True.
do we think based on everything we know so far?
Can we define biggest?
Are we talking?
It's not just financial. It's just like, what's the one we're all
Whoa.
going to be talking about?
Really?
Comboed with money. I think it's just, what's the biggest?
Yeah.
I assumed we were talking financials because otherwise
you
I don't
can
know.
use that as your argument.
Okay, fine. Because when it comes down to financials, I don't think you can compete with the Transformers franchise. Now, they're not actually my favorite movies by any stretch of the imagination, but these movies are consistent. These movies are huge across the entire globe. And what's more, they're critic proof. And I don't mean people don't listen to like the critics writing reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean people don't listen to the reviews they themselves write while they're watching it. I've never heard anyone defend a Transformers movie by saying, you know what I loved? The characters and themes. No, they go to these movies because they're thrill rides. They have the same director, the same approach, the same technique. You just get your senses assaulted. You leave staggering like you were just on a roller coaster. People pay good money to see that over and over and over and over again. And I don't see that film not having that impact this time for the first time.
So Transformers last night. Okay.
Transformers last night.
Eddie, coming back to you.
What
film?
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Good choice. Okay.
Or rather, Volume 2.
How come?
It's the same while being different. You know, so it's I think it's gonna disrupt the clutter, so to speak.
In what way is it the same while being different?
The same in that like we saw Guardians 1 now, and the Guardians of the Galaxy went from being literally this niche comic book. Rocket Raccoon went from being like this dude I used to play on Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and wreck people with, to all of a sudden like everybody knowing who Rocket Raccoon is. So I think on that level they're now all household names. But we also have an indie guy, a guy that I have like an insane amount of respect for, shepherding this movie.
James Gunn?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, it's going to be the best. The biggest, because I think there'll be a groundswell support for this film in a way that. Well, Transformers it's exactly what you said. But it's pure consumerism, right? It's
Agreed.
Pure consumerism.
That's why I picked it.
So those movies, in the way I've seen it play out, those pure consumerist mosh pit kind of we're here to sell toothpaste and fear type projects. They make a big impact immediately, but then 2 weeks go by and then no one's talking about them. Right, and when you say the biggest, I thought you were interpreting it as terms of like cultural relevance, like what are people going to be talking about?
Yep.
Right, and that's Guardians 2, because everything else is literally the same.
Damn you, context!
If only there was a film that could combine the interesting characters, the small feeling intimate, getting to know new people, and just an utterly marketable merchandise franchise. Oh, wait, there is Spider-Man.
Oh, Homecoming.
Homecoming. Here's why I like it. I like it because it's Spider-Man. And kids, as much as they're getting to know Rocket, and as much as they want their truck robot,
Everyone likes Truck Robot.
kids love Spider-Man. And I feel like those things will go toe to toe. Because if you look at the overall, but then what you get extra from Spider-Man is the fact that we're rebooting this, and not just rebooting it, we're rebooting it with Marvel actually getting to say, okay, here's what you do. With the Marvel Cinematic Universe saying, okay, here's how you can incorporate this thing that has been withering on the vine with people who know what the hell they're doing. And he got that cross promotion with the Avengers film, and everybody loved those scenes. And then you're gonna get to know him, plus that extra jump of that little intimate feeling of high school. He's a young Spider-Man. This is something new. And that reboot, those two together, combined with the fact that I said it, means I really believe in it.
All right, Transformers, Spider-Man, Guardians. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's start with Spider-Man for a second. First off, when I said that the Transformers movies were critic-proof, what I also mean to say is that superhero movies are not critic-proof, and in fact, if there is bad word of mouth on any of these, and granted, we haven't seen them yet, hopefully they're all amazing, but if there is, they can take a huge dive. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the movie that opened up the summer, and then it immediately tanked and went second to Neighbors. X-Men The Last Stand was going to be the biggest X-Men movie ever, opened real big, second to The Breakup. All right, these things are actually a little volatile. Now, they'll still probably make money, but will they be as big as all that? That is a fair question. Spider-Man is a series that people have been inundated with for a long time. The novelty value is not there anymore. Some people might actually be confused now as to, did the Amazing Spider-Man movies even count? Why would we get invested in that? But that's a casual audience thing. Obviously, the real fans, they know the difference. They're going to appreciate that. But when you say that kids love Spider-Man, I don't think they love him as much as they used to. The numbers have been going down on his individual movies for a while.
Same with your movies.
They've actually gone up.
No, they've gone down.
The last two made $1.1 billion each.
Really?
Oh my
Yes,
God.
I just
internationally.
looked it up before I came here.
Spider-Man has never cracked $1 billion, at least not adjusted for inflation.
You literally just depressed the shit out of it.
Isn't that depressing?
Wait,
I'm not
1.1
saying
billion
it is.
each
It is.
internationally?
Internationally, yeah, the last
That
two,
is crazy.
approximately. I'm sure Lon can back me up on this.
And I'm here
Okay.
patting my back over my YouTube videos.
Like, your YouTube videos are good, but we're not talking about quality. We're talking about impact. Now, yes, a lot of the Transformers movies are quite disposable, but if they were that disposable, would they continue making money? There is a law of diminishing returns on franchises that no longer impress people, that no longer thrill them. We're seeing that, sadly, with Spider-Man, where his numbers have gone down. Now, Civil War was an aberration because he was sharing that with everybody, and I think that's why Marvel is shoving Iron Man into this movie.
And that's why I say the bigness of a movie is not just about the money, people.
But here's my...
It's also about what's going to happen. Is people are
Okay.
going to see Spider-Man and they're going to say Spider-Man is back. I finally get to root for this person after they've just let him wither on the web for so long. And now Bibs hated that one so much.
All of the Spider-Man trailers we've seen so far for Homecoming are Iron Man trailers. We are seeing Spider-Man dealing with having to look at Iron Man as a mentor. We are seeing with Spider-Man reeling from the impacts of Civil War. This is not a Spider-Man story that we're being sold to. They're trying so hard to shove him into the Marvel Universe that I'm not seeing an emotional storyline from Spider-Man's perspective. I am not as interested in Homecoming as I want to be, and I am interested, but I'm not as interested as I want to be.
What about Guardians?
Guardians was a novelty factor when it came out, and that movie is great. That original Guardians, holy crap, that movie is awesome. I love that movie, but it can only have a first impression once. And I think there is a possibility that it might plateau a little bit. Now, I'm sure it's going to do okay. Like, all these movies are going to be in the top movies of the summer. If they're going to be like the top 5, 10, something, they're all going to do good. But they're really going to have to pull out the stops to get people talking as much as Guardians of the Galaxy did. And there's also a chance that they might try too hard and make it too strange, too bizarre, too connected.
I just
Move up to the mic for me, sorry.
Yeah, kids don't love Spider-Man.
That's a lie. Good, we both cited facts.
I think Spider-Man is a very significant character for your guys' generation, right? Peter Parker was kind of the every guy. He wasn't cool, and then all of a sudden he had these powers and stuff. For my generation, it was X-Men. For kids today, it's something completely different. Right? Like Ultimate
It's the new
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man is a great cartoon. I love it. I think the sense of humor in it is, they completely nail it. Great cartoon. it's not the biggest cartoon on the planet, right? So if the kids actually loved Spider-Man, then Ultimate Spider-Man would be massive.
You got a great point there.
Right.
No, I agree. I also think, kids aren't growing up with the Spider-Man comics the way they used to.
No.
They're growing up with different versions of Spider-Man. They're growing up with older versions of Spider-Man. Spider-Mans who run companies. They don't have that connection to him they used to.
If you're a kid today, you are into all the, kids today, they're into anime. They're into video games. They're into all the stuff that was like niche and obscure when we were all growing up.
Basically.
Right? So
Yeah,
all
but you're
those
so
things
much younger than us.
that made Spider-Man relatable is kind of absent. So he doesn't resonate the same way.
Look at the trailer. First of all, look at the trailers. There's two things the trailers accomplish. One is I get that
Iron Man's in the movie.
I get that they're saying Iron Man's in the movie. I think that's the part of the trailer that's saying you like Iron Man, you're gonna like this. But the trailers are. I mean, when I saw that, I saw a take on high school. It's a story about high school, and I think that's gonna be awesome.
There's one scene at a lunch counter.
No, the whole thing is he is a young kid.
There've been so many Spider-Man movies where he's in a high school.
Yeah, but this is a more.
Like there was one where he was like in
visibly
Twilight.
Younger.
It was like
He's
Twilight
not a
meets the high
30-year-old
school.
guy
Like,
playing a 17-year-old. This is a kid, and don't take my word for it. Take the message boards that say that it's very highly anticipated.
Can I address
Transformers?
the
Yes,
Transformers?
please
thing?
do.
When you're talking about like the first impression, I agree with that, right? I get it, but you've got a talking raccoon, and you've got a little tree. Okay, kids are gonna love that, and I know internationally, that is going to blow up.
You've got
a
a
little
guy
talking tree and a raccoon, like.
The talking
a
truck has been
spider
making billions of
that's a
dollars
man.
for decades.
Yeah,
That's my contribution to that. We already have a talking truck.
Right.
Talking truck and
I
talking
do feel,
trucks.
but I will say this: I do feel like Transformers will make more money than everything else, and I will. Look, Michael Bay is a dope director. I mean, I'm not gonna discount like the way he moves the camera, the way he sets up his shots, his cutting edge use of technology. I mean, it's all awesome, right?
Great technical director.
Right.
Yes.
He's awesome.
He's a great
So I don't
person
like-
to say, okay, director
Right.
of photography. You go.
Well, he shoots a lot of it. Yeah.
That's
All right,
right.
but
Damn it.
you're saying from yours will be
what-
more culturally relevant and
Yeah,
bigger.
but
Okay.
I mean,
I think
here's what I have. Here's a problem I have with your thing. Each of us has highly merchandisable materials. Yours is something that people are still getting to know. Both of ours are traditional
Tried and true.
juggernauts.
Yeah.
I think that yours was something that made a splash, and it's going to be very difficult to build on that splash to
can
get
only
it to
make
be
a-
a tsunami.
so
it's so
I'm
much
about to
easier.
obliterate you with one sentence.
Okay.
If someone has bought a Spider-Man toy for every Spider-Man movie that's come out, now don't you think maybe the parent will be like, we got a lot of Spider-Mans. We don't have we don't have this raccoon doll.
They bought the
That's
raccoon
why-
doll last time.
What's
So
that?
they bought the raccoon doll last
the
time.
little
We're good.
tree.
The little tree
They're
upgrades
all
is going to
sequels.
sell real good. The little tree is going to sell. One more thing I want to say about Spider-Man that really bugs me about it is the revelation that the Vulture is an Iron Man villain. That is crap. Spider-Man can't even get his own villain to be his own villain. Vulture's got to have a grudge against Tony Stark. What the hell?
All right, I think I got enough there. Lon,
Well, I do have some box office results for us.
let's hear them.
Only Transformers 3 and 4 topped $1 billion worldwide. Transformers 2, $836 million, and 1, $710 million. But
That's what I said.
the Amazing Spider-Man movies, neither of them topped $1 billion. It was $709 for Amazing Spider-Man 2, $758 for Amazing Spider-Man 1.
I feel like yeah.
Travis, I got to come to you for help here. What do you think based on those arguments? Move your mic down. Sorry.
Oh, this is really tough. As much as I'm looking forward to, first off, I wanted to mention War of the Planet of the Apes. That's the one
That's
I'm
gonna be
looking.
Also looks cool.
Yeah.
When is that coming out?
That's
Late
the summer.
July?
July.
Yeah.
July, I think.
Based on
I
these
didn't
three
know.
and their arguments.
But I really have to go with Spider-Man. I think I liked his argument about how yes, it's a kid in high school, but it feels completely different from what we're used to. It really does. So
He does. He's a young, charming kid.
Good,
I see
thank
Amazing
you.
Spider-Man again.
It does, but it also has Iron Man.
Which is great.
We already have Iron Man. That's not special.
We have all these things. I'm slight edge to Spider-Man as well because you
Yes.
focus on the money, and you were close with me. And I was hoping they're all going to buy the little Groot.
They are going
but
to buy the little.
You did sort of sell me on is it as proven Neither is Spider-Man, to be
The
honest.
little group
Not
is
lately.
going to be like the remember the
Spider-Man's really
dancing
not
Coke
great
can.
lately.
It totally is, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the dancing
This
Coke
thing.
can for a generation.
Already swayed me. Giving him the point. It's true. Little Groot's going to make that the biggest. Guardians gets the
Sure.
point.
Really?
Yes.
That is,
Whoa.
Twitter agreed with you. 60% support for Guardians 2 versus 34% for Spider-Man and 7% for
Nice.
I want to clarify.
You're
I
on
don't want
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
make
yeah,
that
yeah.
much money. I'm not that big a fan of those
think
movies.
we-
I just think it will.
I think you said that right.
Yeah, Little
Yeah.
Groot's going to dominate the summer, and that's going to be then, therefore, the biggest. That's fair. That's right. All right, he obliterated you. There we go. Number 4. Here we go. Let's do
That's
this.
fine. I'm fine with it. I fought my fight.
Stallone apparently is no longer doing the Expendables. He's walked off.
He was expendable the
He
whole
was
time.
expendable. So we want to ask who should replace him. That's a hard task to do. But who would you want to replace him, and what should their team be, him or her, with who you're replacing? And now we're going back around. Bibbs, you're up first.
Okay, so we have to look at how the action genre has evolved in the wake of the Expendables. The Expendables was a throwback to an era of badass cinema in the 80s. What is badass cinema now? What is that over-the-top, hero worshipy, can do no wrong, tear through like an army of bad guys with just you and a pistol or a knife? And we got to look at that is the domain of the badass action heroine right now. So what we have here is we have Sigourney Weaver leading a team of female Expendables populated by the likes of Mila Jovovich, Gal Gadot, Kate Beckinsale, Michelle Rodriguez, Haley Atwell, maybe even Katie Sackhoff. This is something that's been toyed with by Hollywood, but has simply gone by the wayside because it's hard to get away. Well, certain people in Hollywood, that's been suggested, right? That they've suggested doing Expendables.
I was making that movie.
I know. This is why I was surprised that you didn't pick it. I was surprised
Dude, I want to
this
come
was
off as a
available.
douchebag. Like, be like, well, here's my pitch for a thing that I couldn't get off the ground because.
We'll use it. Save
Right,
it.
right,
We'll
know
talk
what.
about it. But like, I think this idea is dramatically overdue. I think this is an awesome concept. I think that it's a shame about Ghost in the Shell, not because it was a good movie. It was actually a very bad movie, but it's a shame because some people might look at, maybe Scarlett Johansson, female action heroes can't help in a movie. That's not it. It just looked bad. Female action heroes have been in the wake of Underworld, the Resident Evil movies. These are the badass heroes to compare with Commando, because all the male action heroes we have lately are still smarting from the whole Jason Bourne thing, and they're all very weepy. The last James Bond movie was a depressing motion picture. I want to see it go in a very different direction, and I don't need to see a spin-off. I just think they should take over the full main franchise and not even talk about it.
Brett.
So I could have gone with yours. That was something I toyed around, but I opted for this instead. Barack Obama. I think Barack Obama should come in and take over this franchise. Wouldn't that be awesome? First of all, he's kind of been in charge of the biggest military in the world. He's got experience with that. Also, we're going to fill out his team with who? The same team from before. We got Joe Biden. We got Michelle.
He's been biding his time.
But not just that. He's been biding his time waiting for this. I didn't want to run for president because I was getting in shape for the film. And then not only that, but we could cobble together some ex-presidents. We could have people you don't expect to
Like
be on the
who?
same, like George W.
Whoa.
Like Bill Clinton. Get them together. You have people that you. That's the thing about the Expendables.
Jeb
People
Bush.
you are.
Would you put Jeb Bush in?
He's just too low energy for me.
He's a sidekick.
So yeah, he's just a sad man.
I'll tell him that.
So there's that.
I'll tell him you said that.
I'm not the first to say it. Anyhow, so I did like Jeb Bush as a person. Like, don't get me wrong. He seemed like the
literally-
only
poor guy.
I
decent-
actually threw him a fundraiser. Believe
Here
it or
you
not.
go.
I
Let me
didn't
pick
know.
up the.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I couldn't get anyone to show up.
So back to my president who won an election.
It was
I hate to
embarrassing.
say it. He's a winner. He won the election big. So is that and not only that, but when
Shouldn't have said that.
is he a good performer? Yes, he's an amazing performer because you saw him able to execute what other people have written for him in his speeches. But not only that, to be genuinely funny in like those Washington correspondent stand-up bits, he could pull this off.
Do like one-liners after killing people.
Oh, I wonder.
Really kill people?
Yeah, I wonder when has an action hero said a one-liner
Can you
after
give me an
killing
Obama
people?
one-liner?
That'll do.
You get-
That'll do. And then he just does that. Michelle, clean this. I'll clean this one up. Anyway, so that's it. I think
all
it
right.
would be amazing because it's so
I like
different.
very different. All right, Addie, your turn.
So once you extract Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, all those guys from the franchise, you go, well, what's really left here, right? It's the promise of that throwback 80s action movie. But now you've got that throwback 80s action movie without the throwback 80s action guys, which is ultimately fine, because while the movies had the correct cast, so to speak, it didn't really feel like a throwback movie in the same way. So what I'm proposing is a reboot, reimagining along the lines of Kung Fury or Far Cry Blood Dragon, where it feels like an over-the-top 80s nostalgia fest. So, I put down Chris Evans, but he's really just a placeholder for a guy in his 30s who is not an 80s action star. Chris did an amazing job. I think his best role was in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. He played kind of this like over-the-top bad guy, if you guys recall that
And an
role.
actor, too.
A film that was wrecked by the Expendables opening weekend.
Was
Right.
it?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
same weekend.
So the question though was who could replace Stallone? Who could?
Well,
Who would be on Chris's
literally
team?
anyone could. But who would be on his team? Yeah.
Dev Patel. I would just get really great actors who aren't necessarily action stars, because what I'm talking about now is you're using a lot of wire work, a lot of green screen, and you don't necessarily need guys that can do the martial arts full on. Not the Raid version of this as much as, again, the Kung Fury Blood Dragon version of it.
Okay, got it.
Again, I don't know how popular Kung Fury and
So
Blood
we're
Dragon
saying
are,
your
so-
pitch is to get rid of the movie and do an 80s nostalgia movie. That's just like such a lazy Hollywood pitch. We're into nostalgia, let's do it.
Are you kidding?
Ouch.
Are you kidding?
It's such a lazy pitch.
Well, there's
You
one,
just said
there's one of
let's-
us here that actually works in Hollywood.
Yeah, and I hear
not
your
the card.
pitches,
That's not
and
the-
they're the
that's not the
worst
card.
Hollywood
That's
dribble.
not the, that's
You
not the
just
best
said,
card to
let's-
play, Brett. That's
you-
actually faux pas, man.
But you just said let's do Kung Fury again, and then the pitching is we're not fighting, but we're fighting. We don't need fighters, but we need people who can look like they're fighting through CGI. It's just that's not a pitch. That's
Tell
not,
us how you really feel.
Yeah, but like
Okay.
that's what it feels like. And yours is the solution. Yours is like let's give it the bridesmaids
I'm
treatment.
literally going to call Millennium and make this movie just to shut you up.
I'm
If
not
that's
like
the case,
I'm
we
getting the
literally,
point.
that's the case, we
Literally,
get the
I'm
point.
gonna-
Put in the back.
everybody that looked at me and said, "Man, you can't make an R-rated Power Rangers movie. That'll never work. That you'll never buy the tone." You're gonna become the poster boy for
love
that
it.
for the
All right.
Expendables.
Okay, but here's
Boom.
what I'm gonna say. I actually agree with you in that I actually am not a fan of this approach. Not because I think it sounds like a bad movie. That sounds like a fun movie. It doesn't sound like The Expendables. I don't think the point of The Expendables was 80s throwback. You didn't need that cast if you're gonna do an 80s throwback. The point was that cast. The point was, what was the first trailer for The Expendables? It was just the names.
Yep.
Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis. We'll get Chuck Norris someday. We promise. Like that was the promise of it. So the promise is the ensemble cast.
Right.
We want to see all of the action heroes who never get to team up. And granted, that very concept in the Age of the Avengers is not as exciting as it used to be. Fast and Furious became this unironically already. So that's fine. We have to do something that people aren't doing. And I think one thing to do is to celebrate this part of the action genre that is kicking along. Lucy made tons of money. The Resident Evil and Underworld movies, they're not the biggest blockbuster successes, but there's been like, what, 5 or 6 of each of those? They're
100%.
consistent.
100%.
They are great action heroes who are in search of a good movie, and frankly, without Stallone here to try to guide it in the direction which I think did have maybe the wrong tone. Yeah. I think the first one was way too dark. I think the second one is way too jokey. I think the third one finally started getting the right tone, but by that point, most of the cast wasn't available most of the time, and he had to go with basically Ronda Rousey, cool, and then a bunch of other people I can't remember.
Oh, Snipes was in it. Harrison Ford.
I'm in the younger cast.
Oh,
when
got
they
it.
brought in
Like
this younger
Harrison
team, like,
Harrison
who are these,
Ford was
who
in
are
it.
these younger people? I don't know. They're not action stars. Get the action stars.
So, may I?
Yes,
continue?
go ahead.
But the question was, who could replace Stallone? And I agree with you. I think what you're presenting is a wonderful idea.
I agree.
Speaking from personal experience, as the person who literally brought this idea into the consciousness. Okay,
but I think
It's
one
just such like. Here's what happened in Hollywood: is Bridesmaids was successful because it was an empowered group of women doing their thing.
Whoa!
What?
No, it was successful because it was a good movie. It wasn't empowered women doing their thing.
Okay, so it was successful because it was a
In
good movie.
one
Hollywood
of the points
looked
of the film
around
is
and
that
said,
they weren't empowered. She's like really depressed that entire time.
Yeah.
The career was going off the
by
rails.
empowered, what
That's
I mean is
pathetic.
like we don't need the guys around. Let's have the women do it. And then you saw Heat, and then you saw The Other Woman, and then they just started churning these out.
I agree that my premise is fantastic. Thank you for making my argument.
So here's the thing: is like when I see both your pitches,
Mm-hmm.
I see you're applying like Hollywood, the moves that Hollywood uses on
Mm-hmm.
films. That's so boring to me. What's not boring to me? Have we ever seen
Fantasyland.
Okay,
But
so
here's the thing,
Fantasyland in which this happened. Because
Just remember how you felt when you heard the idea. The
Okay,
idea
that's
is freaking awesome.
That's
It's
how
original.
everyone felt when they heard my Last Action Hero idea and they shot that down. Here's the thing: when we talk
No
about
one felt
this show,
that
we're
way,
talking
though.
about
You
ideas,
did.
we're talking about fantasy, we're talking about our dream projects. Sigourney Weaver obviously could lead the Expendables. She'd be great at it. It would be an
so
awesome
could
movie.
Barack Obama,
So could
correct?
Barack Obama in a very different fantasy
hold up,
land.
hold up.
That is
But-
I could get Jesus
but
Christ to
wouldn't-
star in it if I resurrected him.
You couldn't.
Sigourney Weaver already passed on this movie.
So you're just saying it's
She
not
passed on
realistic.
your
It's not going to happen, right? Like, who could? Yeah, anyone could. But the point is, the cast, Mila Jovovich, Sigourney, whoever.
Well, I need to hear
people
more.
who passed.
Who's in your movie then? If you're going to knock down the cast, it's fair. Chris Evans, Dev Patel. Who's realistically in your movie? Just throw out me, give me a couple names just to be fair then for the lineup.
Put Derek Mears in it. Sharni Vinson from Your Next. I'd have
All right.
Ryan Gosling in it.
Sharni Vinson would be
pitch.
great in my movie as well. I agree.
Yeah, no, she would. She was in.
All right,
But
got
you
it.
say
The
Sigourney
level-
Weaver turned it down, but people turn down roles and then come back to them again sometimes.
It's just
It's
you
not- this
haven't
happens
still
a lot.
said
People
anything
get off
the
roles.
most
Well,
unrealistic,
do you have Barack Obama in on this?
Yeah, I talked to him this morning,
Uh-huh.
and he said, "Yep, I'll be in it. I'll do it."
Biden too?
He just wants to be able to whip out
Biden's
that.
going to take a little convincing
So-
because he likes his
Biden
life.
will do it. Biden will do his own
He wouldn't
stunts.
even
All right,
do
final
that.
thoughts.
It would be so good. Just
Go ahead.
imagine.
The question is who could, right? Who could realistically? I guess that's the implication here. Yours totally in the realm of possibility. I agree with you, and I think that movie should actually get made.
I agree
right?
too.
Yours literally will never happen. It
Barack
can't.
Obama has been parasailing. Did you think that would ever happen?
Do you think was he in training?
You know what they also said? That America would never elect a black president. And we did. So if you're going to say nay all day, all day.
Bibbs, final thoughts?
One second, that's a whole lot of stupid. Okay, that's a fun idea to think about. There's a difference between fantasizing about who can make a movie and that will never, ever happen, and he crossed it a long time ago. Audie is right. It's hard to get these things made, but I think there's a difference between we're talking about who could. I could have a glass of water. It doesn't mean I will. Semantics.
So
It's
much-
semantics.
My
It's
idea
like-
is
Come on.
much better.
What are they saying online?
Well, they love the tension. A lot of love for the personal tension. A lot of people hoping a actual fight may break out.
I win that actual fight.
I have a bad knee. You're sorry. I'm
all
screwed.
right.
I'm not in.
And then Bruce Campbell, Jackie
good
Chan, Russell Crowe, and Bruce Willis were brought up a lot as
Bruce
people.
was in it.
Bruce
Bruce
was
has
already in
been, Harrison
Yeah.
Ford was brought up. He's also been in too. An outside choice I liked, Luis Guzman. Somebody suggested.
Yeah.
I'd see an
Yeah.
Expendables
He's
led by
fun.
Luis Guzman.
He's cool.
All right. As much as I would love to see Barack Obama, it's not realistic. But I would love to see Sigourney, and the fact that you did too. I don't want to get hung up on semantics. It would be the best project, so I got to give it to Bibbs.
Yes.
Bibbs.
That was
That was the hardest point
So,
I've ever seen
Bibbs,
in this game.
should I then revisit this project?
Please.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Let's do that
I'll
to
write
prove
it. It's
him wrong
fine.
instead of the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
We all like that
So
one.
who would
Yeah.
lead the cast then?
And Sigourney's
Well,
probably
so you're saying Sigourney won't do it. Sigourney is completely out.
Who's the
Because-
other person? Break it
look,
right
I
now.
can-
Here's your
I
chance.
can
Honestly, I
rewrite
think
the
then
script.
skew younger because we're going like she's like Linda Hamilton hasn't done movies for a
Oh,
while.
yeah,
so
I
I would
thought
say
Linda Hamilton was
I would
fine.
say,
Hamilton
but
would be
like
great
she
to
hasn't
bring
done them
back.
for a while, so I would actually go Gina
But
Davis.
obviously-
Yeah, and
Gina
I
Davis
also
was
had a
Gina
great
Davis.
meeting with Sharon Stone about it.
That would be awesome too. But
She really
yeah,
wanted
Ron's
to do it.
losing his
Yeah.
ass
Sharon
off.
Stone
Sharon
wanted to
Stone
do
is
it.
the obvious answer.
really, because I think Gina Davis
Yeah.
is. Long Kiss Goodnight.
Gina
Come
Davis
on.
would be great, too.
Yeah, Sharon
I
Stone
love
was-
Gina Davis.
Well,
She'd be great.
Marina Marina Baccarin.
Marina Baccarin
was like
would be
that.
awesome.
Like, dude,
they don't have to be that young. Like Mila Jovovich could totally dominate a cast like that. Kate Beckinsale is so awesome in positions of power and substance. In her Underworld movie, she just has to
I
look
love
good.
this. Can I tell
Margot
a
Robbie
quick
also
story?
has.
But
Yeah,
that's
do it quick.
hilarious. I actually called Mila Jovovich. We had like a 3-hour conversation at one point about doing like a warring time travelers movie where it's like her versus Kate Beckinsale. You know remember that X-Men animated series episode where it's like the episode 1 is like Bishop going to stop the technovirus.
Yeah.
And then the second episode's like Cable realizes Bishop fucked up his future, and then Cable comes back and tries to fight Bishop.
Yes.
I literally called Mila Jovovich and I was like, dude, we need to make this, but with you and Kate Beckinsale. You're from 100 years in the future, and Kate Beckinsale's from 1,000 years in the future.
Done.
They wouldn't do it?
No, she was all about it, and then I dropped the ball because
let's pick up
I
the
went
ball.
and did some random. I think I went and made some
Brett, do you
YouTube
approve of that
short-
one?
I approve
My
of it.
decision-making
And I do
process is
understand
kind
how
of weird
difficult
sometimes.
It is to make a film. in
Mila, we
Hollywood.
know you're watching. He's sorry, and he wants to do this again, and we want him to do this again.
That
And
sounds
also,
cool.
you were
I like
awesome
that
in
one.
Return to Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
You were awesome. In
All right,
Return to
round
Blue Lagoon.
5. This one comes off
Wasn't
Twitter
3
at
hours. I was
Benji
exaggerating when I said 3 hours. It
Bilderman.
just went forever. I talked for 3 hours.
Benji Bilderman on Twitter suggests this question in honor of It, which the trailers like broke records on YouTube and stuff, right? So people are
Pretty
really
impressive.
liking it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot, yeah.
What's the best all-time horror reboot? There have been some good ones. So we're back to you. Brett, you're up first.
Oh crap. Okay. My answer is The Ring.
Okay. Why don't we hear all the answers and go ahead?
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead.
Mine is Let Me In. It was a remake of Let the Right One In.
Yep. All right. And then Bibbs.
Mine is David Cronenberg's The Fly.
The Fly. Okay.
All right.
Back to you, Brett.
So The Ring. This is a Japanese horror film that was the kind of started the bringing them over here aspect of it. It was an improvement on the other one because I could actually spend time watching the film from The Ring if it's in English because I don't have to read subtitles. So I got that extra immersion of it. That's a joke.
Thank God.
I was a joke.
All right, just checking.
But this is a film that was itself expertly acted by Naomi Watts, and it was a film that scared the garbage out of you. And the whole idea of 7 days, it brought a cultural relevance to America that this isn't the kind of film that would get here and be as big otherwise. And the idea of people still are calling folks up and going 7 days, and then when you see a photo posted on Instagram and someone's face is blurry, that cultural legacy is long because everyone says, "What did you just watch the film, the video from The Ring?" It's just so intensely scary. The jump cuts and the way they executed that iconic scene of Samara climbing out of the video screen.
Well, spoilers.
And up to you. And if you haven't seen it, good, because then you'll survive for a week.
That's true. Hey, go ahead. Let me in.
To be perfectly, just to put all my cards on the table. I haven't watched a lot of horror movies.
Okay.
Okay,
in
that's
general,
fair. Yeah, it's not your wheelhouse.
Okay.
because I'm kind of easily scared.
That means you should watch
too.
more horror movies. You're the perfect demographic.
I have
love
luckily
scary.
seen these, but go ahead.
No,
yeah.
but
Not
I
to
don't
put millennium on you,
like,
but we love
I don't
it.
Enjoy
like,
it. It's
like being scared.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
So the reason I'm picking Let Me In is, all these movies did that, right? Every movie you guys picked, it took the original premise and it just kind of altered it slightly and made a better movie in certain ways, right? It didn't necessarily just Americanize it. It made they made a better film in some regards. Which one? The Ring.
Oh, The Ring. We'll get
Yeah,
into it. We'll get into it
I just
later.
don't
We'll
want
get into it later.
to. I talk too much trash about people, and I don't want to piss off that director.
Right.
But yeah, I think the
This
Japanese
is a
were
difficult
superior.
position for you as a
It is.
producer.
It's not-
Dude,
for
I
sure.
like-
You have to watch
just-
what you said.
Kudos
I'm
for
always
coming on
talking
Movie
trash. I'm
Fights.
always talking trash, and I don't mean to be talking trash.
Talk about how much you liked Mouse Hunt.
Gore Verbinski.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, Mouse Hunt.
Look, I think Let Me In. I went to the premiere of that movie. There was an old school producer who started off as Mel Gibson's lawyer named Nigel Sinclair, and then he created a company called Exclusive. He called me up and he said, "Hey, I made this film. You want to come to the premiere?" And my mom was in town, and this is back when my mom was like, "What are you doing with your life?" So I took her to this
They never stopped doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
They just
Well,
keep
now
on.
she just watches. Well, things of me on the internet, going like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" You know, I talked to Chloe a little bit at the premiere, and then I sat down with that director, and he was so dope. He was literally dope. I was like,
Good
man,
point.
this guy's gonna blow up. And at the time, he was up for Man of Steel, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we started talking about Man of Steel, and from what I recall, he said, "Oh yeah, it's it's cool." And I think it was him, Duncan Jones, Zack Snyder, and Tony Scott. And then obviously Zach got
Tony
the
Scott, that's
and
hard
at
to
the time,
imagine.
and then Zach got the gig.
That's hard to imagine.
But you take that movie, and it was a reboot, sure. You take that movie, and then you see the trajectory of where that director went, and all the movies he made. You love someone talked about Planet of the Apes. I mean, like Planet of the Apes wouldn't be Planet of the Apes if it weren't for for Let Me In, right? And now like he's doing Batman, and
I think he's doing Batman because of Cloverfield. I think he's doing that because of I think he did Cloverfield. I don't think Let Me In is the film to do it, but is it my turn to do it? I just need to do my thing.
Yes.
Okay, so good movies. Right. I'm actually not going to take anything away from that. That's fine. But when we're talking about a reboot is not just a remake. There's a reason, different word for it. It's a reinvigoration. It's bringing a new idea to something, and ideally starting a new franchise. Now, The Ring did that, but The Fly didn't just take a story and then tell it again and add horses instead of fishermen. Like, what The Fly did was take the original premise of a scientist who ends up splicing his DNA with a fly, becoming a monster, and take a solid potboiler. That original Vincent Price movie is great. I got nothing against that movie. But he took this very simple monster movie premise and made something horrifyingly universal. The David Cronenberg's The Fly isn't just a monster movie. It is a prolonged, extended body horror masterpiece about dying slowly of degenerative disease. If you have never been forced to watch someone you care about die slowly, The Fly is simply a great monster movie. If you have, it becomes one of the best movies ever made. It is shockingly sensitive. It is absolutely horrifying. The makeup effects are astounding. It is one of the great horror movies, period. Absolutely, end of sentence. And yeah, The Fly 2 wasn't great, but at least it had a sequel, and I don't think we can say that for Let Me In, so I think the reboot thing veers more in my direction.
All right, fight it out.
I will say that Let Me In, like, even the title of Let Me In is worse than Let the Right One In. Like, they made it worse. Like, Let the Right One In is like, Let Me In is so... come on.
That's not my problem with it. I don't know.
I saw that movie. I saw that movie in the theaters, and it was just like... I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it. It was just itself.
It's just the same as the original film, and the original film is great. And even if the remake is great, it doesn't really bring anything new to it.
And that's the hardest. I feel like as a critic, that's the hardest thing to talk about is when a movie's like,
it's competent.
Not bad.
It's well made.
Fine.
If it had come out first, it would be gangbusters, but it just can't have that impact, which is why I don't consider it a great remake or reboot. When it comes to The Ring, that's also a good movie, and yeah, you're right, it had this cultural impact where they brought over all this J-horror stuff, but I don't necessarily think that was always a good thing. After The Ring, you can tell that studios kind of stopped trying to adapt these things well and just started shoving them.
That happens to everything, right?
It does happen to everything.
Star Wars gets made, and then all of a sudden you get like 50 knockoffs that don't have any cultural relevance.
Agreed. But I think what we've got here is The Ring, its greatest impact, aside from a few references, is a cultural legacy that is not necessarily that great and was quickly supplanted by the torture porn genre. The Ring, it's okay, but I really just rewatched it like a week ago, and it's just wall-to-wall music in place of scares. You look at the original film, you look at Ringu, it is a straight-up serious drama until the supernatural comes in. Gore Verbinski tips his hand immediately. It's sort of like what Stephen King says The Shining is like, even though it's not. It's just constant nightmare from the start, even before the supernatural strikes, and it gets a little dull after a while because it's the same note over and over again. There's cool stuff in it, but even the video is just there's even a joke about it. I think it's film school 101. It's pretty photography, but it's just over and over again. This is a movie that is about dissecting someone's student film.
But if you
that's
realize
what The Ring is.
But if you realize that film was made by a ghost, it's more impressive. Also, do you believe that he really watched it a week ago?
I do.
I believe it. I don't really think you've seen it and watched it a week ago.
If we're talking titles here, I think Ringu is such a better title than The Ring.
Yeah.
Well, it's just because they don't, like, they didn't good.
Well, that's true, but it's also the original version refers to the cyclical nature of the storyline and how it needs to keep perpetuating itself over and over again. In America, they had that tagline: "When you die, you see the ring." You just made it stupid. You just made it stupid.
Well, there's an element of just dumbing down of culture that has been proliferated by.
What about The Fly?
Made his
Thoughts on The Fly, guys?
Cronenberg made his movie better.
Yeah, do you have thoughts against The Fly here?
I haven't seen The Fly in probably 25
Oh,
years.
you poor thing.
And I don't know. I haven't had the need to do it. I'm trying to picture like the special effects, and to me they don't.
Oh my God! Him
not?
squirting pus out of all over
Yeah, but
his
it's
body.
like you have to put on your like
I
this
think
era
you're
of
doing
film.
acidic bile
You have
all
to
over
put on your.
that guy.
It's like The Thing, and I lost on The Thing recently because I'm watching it with like, oh, that was so cool to watch at the time, but then you're like, I'm grading it on a curve because of what was available.
weird.
At
Oh,
that
you
time.
shut everything in your
like-
mouth.
It's like goo.
The question.
Smoky goo.
Here's the issue I have. Right, horror movies work once. I think the moment you move on to a sequel or a part 3 or part 4, all of a sudden what made the part 1 scary all of a sudden becomes hokey and campy, and then so on and so forth. So I firmly believe that if you make a horror movie and you're going to make a sequel, you have to like move out of the horror genre, right? So Aliens. If you're gonna do
It's a dramatic shift.
Totally.
Yeah.
If I were gonna do a Friday the 13th movie, for instance, right? Like I would do more of an action movie with Jason. Just because like I think horror movies work best when they're one and done. They have to be a new experience every time.
I agree.
Right? So the sequel thing for the and I understand your point about the reboot and the sequel thing. That's lost on me because
It's fine.
of like the
It's a minor point, I think.
minor point, absolutely. These are all great. These are all great films, and I think they appeal. And the point of horror movies, ultimately, the point of horror movies is they should not appeal to everybody, right? So,
That's a fair point.
So if you talk to 50 different people and you say, "What's your favorite horror movie?"
You get very different answers
You're
because
gonna
people
get
have different
average.
phobias.
Right, but if you say, "Hey, what was the best action movie that came out in this year?" People are gonna all unilaterally either say The Raid or something.
Right. But what I'll say to that point, I don't think they need to change genres. I think they need to tap into a different sort of anxiety or a different sort of fear. You look at the original Alien; it's a body horror story, and then it became
focus on the three in hand.
I'm using that to create a parallel between The Fly. The original The Fly is a story about a woman who can't like sort of help her husband in his work. You look at David Cronenberg's The Fly, and it is a story about death and dying writ large against a very potent, very visceral allegory. He took one film and made a different film out of the same elements, and I think that is way more potent than basically doing The Ring again but with horses, and doing Let the Right One In again but in America.
I feel like The Ring is one that I always do the
way you said
rewatching
"in
factor.
America" was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say another thing that The Ring has that the other one doesn't is like when you're someone in the audience watching it, it kind of brings you in with that shared experience of having watched the scary thing that's supposed to kill you. And I think that that's something that the others don't have. Yours is like, oh, it's great if I want to like also write a paper about it.
Well,
But-
that's just one of the things that makes it so brilliant. But it was a hit film.
Hold up. Can I make an argument for The Fly?
Please.
For The Fly?
Yeah,
For The Fly.
Don't do
Do
it.
it.
First of all, let me just tell you, I've tried this before,
Tried one before.
and it's a great instinct to have.
What?
But
It doesn't help
he's
you
gonna
in
get
the
the
game.
point if you do it, and
I'm already getting the point. I'm right about this one.
no, he's not. No, you're like the buzzing of flies to
Yeah.
me.
All right,
So
Say
you
flies,
want
flies
10
are
seconds,
in the
final
fight.
arguments.
In the
Use it
after
how you
fight,
want.
I'm
You can
trying
help
to do
the final thoughts. Go ahead.
When you say like, I think the horror genre works best again when it's niche, right? The Ring tried to go super broad, and
Don't talk about Naomi Watts like that.
Dude.
Weak. So Let the Right
Dude,
One In.
no. Dude.
Let me
let him
in.
talk.
Let the Right One In. Let me in. They appealed to a very specific demographic, right? That to me is the point of horror movies. They appeal to like a very specific sliver of the population, and it doesn't need to appeal to everyone, but someone needs to watch it and go, "That's my favorite film."
Okay.
I don't think anyone watches The Ring and says, "That's my favorite film of all time." But there are people who have told me, "Let Me In" is their favorite film.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. I believe you. I just think that another way to say what you said about niche audiences and
Yeah.
appealing to a select niche is that there aren't very many people who like your movie. Like, I don't think. I mean, not a lot of people watch this film. They plan to do more because it's part of But
there's billions of people on this planet, bro. Like,
Yeah.
if like
I didn't know
0.01%
that.
of the billion people.
Well,
like
I mean, we
something,
could look
that's
at the
a lot of
box
people.
office and how people saw the movie.
Market
I get it, but
penetration
okay.
doesn't necessarily mean anything for quality.
Okay.
Right.
I don't
Okay.
need final thoughts.
Oh,
Did you get the point?
Yes.
It was a little messy there at the end, and I didn't hear enough of why the remake
Yeah.
was better.
No,
we got
no.
stuck on demographics and things, and you gave me a little bit more, William, on why The Fly was the best remake out of those three. So, what that means, and it's only fitting given the tension that Brett and Addie must do a tiebreaker, correct, Lon?
Yours was the one that I saw.
So wait, anything to add while I find a tiebreaker question?
Speed round. What's this? I'm not.
Yeah, I'll prep you in a second. Lon, go ahead.
Let Me In, it was not part of a planned series of films, but TNT has actually ordered a pilot episode for a potential TV adaptation.
because of the wild success.
Is that a new
So that-
adaptation or is that a
American
follow-up?
adaptation.
It says a pilot episode for a TV series based on the novel that the movie is also
So that's a
based
new
on.
franchise. That's a new
Right.
reboot.
It's like
But
saying
it would be an adaptation of the same property.
Then it's
like
all the
other
same property,
script.
and there is no such thing as
the
a reboot.
ideas of which were perpetuated because of this film that came out and inspired people because they loved it so much.
that's
Yeah.
not true, but that's a good.
You don't need to argue with me. I'm just.
I-
Sorry,
they got me going. They
There's
got
no
me going.
bonus points. You're already in the speed
All
round. Twitter really loved The Thing and was shocked that nobody had picked it.
Yeah.
I was my second pick.
Yeah,
If
you-
anyone else had picked The Fly, I would have picked The Thing.
All right.
That's what I would have done.
Here we go.
Like, I would-
And was there a poll?
Same,
There
actually.
was a poll. Let me pull it up. 47% for The Fly, 36% for The Ring, 17% Let Me In.
Okay.
So how's this
So
work?
this
right
is
now?
how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you both. Just you're out for a second. This isn't for a point. This is just for standing into the speed round. I'm asking 1 point for just you two. This is the speed round. I'm going to ask a question. You have to answer quickly. If you both say the same answer, it's whoever said it first. The second person will have to pick a second answer. You'll then have 20 seconds. They'll be timed, and you'll hear a ding when the time is up. And then you'll each have 10-second rebuttals. Again, you'll hear the ding when it's up.
Okay.
I'll explain it as we keep going, but first, the question. And the key here is to answer quickly. Here we go. Don't look at my questions.
I'm not looking at questions.
Besides Alien 3, what's the worst David Fincher movie?
Fight Club.
Wow.
Wow, I'm blown
That's a-
away that you said that. The Game,
Okay.
but that's
Okay, hold on.
preface. I don't want to piss this dude off.
No, it does. But
can destroy
he
careers,
knows he's
man.
not.
Yeah.
He's just playing a game,
Obviously
Mr.
gonna
Fincher.
Compare it to the high.
Wait, let's piss him
highs
off.
of
Whatever you got.
Fincher.
He's playing
I
to
don't
win.
give a fuck what
Yeah.
most people think. I just don't want to piss that guy
Yeah,
off. So I
we're
respect-
playing
I
to
actually,
win.
like,
Okay, here we
mad
go. So we got
respect for him.
Fight Club versus The Game. Brett, you spoke first. Time begins when you begin speaking.
I just rewatched Fight Club. It's terrible. It is whiny, sanctimonious, privileged white dudes complaining about how they don't have privilege. And every single Ed Norton soliloquy that you cheered for so much back in the day is just drivel. And it's everything that you cherished about it is crap now.
All right, The Game.
Every other David Fincher movie has stood the the test of time. They're all somebody's favorite movie. I would argue that The Game is, while a great film, is nobody's favorite movie.
Okay.
Okay. There it is. Time. All right, 10 seconds now. Use your 10 here wisely and tell me why the other one isn't as bad. Brett's up first. You'll have 10 seconds.
Why is The Game great?
Michael Douglas gives an amazing performance. The premise carries this movie and keeps you going, and it hasn't been beaten into the ground by copycats the way that Fight Club has, making Fight Club just so trite now.
Okay, 10 seconds.
Fight Club literally inspired an entire generation. It inspired copycats. It's Brad Pitt and Ed Norton's two of their best performances. So.
Oh, all right. That was tight there at the end, I got to say. All right, Travis, Lon, based on the arguments, anything you'd like to add there?
Well, first off, the worst David Fincher movie is Benjamin Button, I believe.
Yes!
Yeah.
That is the
a good
correct
one.
answer.
That's a good one. All right, but they didn't say that.
I would have
No,
also
they
said
didn't. But no, I have to go with the. I don't agree with him. I love Fight Club, but I have to go with Brett as it being the.
You like that argument. It was definitely an out of left field argument. It was strong, but Lon, what are your thoughts?
I actually really like both Fight Club and The Game, but yeah, I thought Brett did a really good job of sort of framing Fight Club as this really kind of outdated, sort of whiny. I mean, that is the big critique against it, and I think that's fair. So I got to go with Brett.
Yeah, I was on the fence because I was like, what, Fight Club? But you did sort of a ballsy choice, whether I agree with it or not, based on the arguments. But then you brought some good points back. But then what swayed me too is sort of the fact that the game hasn't been beaten in the ground somehow stuck with me.
Can I just make
you can't. You're going to fight this person.
Ah, damn it! All right.
So based on those facts and based on those two, I got to give Brett the points.
Yes.
But you are not done, sir. You're going to help us judge now against these two. So please stay here and get excited. But that round of applause for your first fight. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for coming here. I know it's tough to, you're in this business. You don't want to piss people off. I appreciate all those stories and things. Yeah, but let us piss them off now. But great first effort, and thank you for doing that. I hope you had fun. But it's not over. Here we go. Will. Did everyone actually call you Will?
No one calls me
just
Bibbs.
shorthand.
Calls me Bibbs.
Bibbs. I'm sorry. I'm trying to write it.
You're cool.
Bibbs and Brett are in the speed round. Here we go. 5 more chances to win points. Bibbs is up by 2.
Yes.
Brett has 1. Okay. Here we go. Question 1. What movie would be improved if every character died in the end? It's a creative question.
The Avengers.
Ooh.
That is tough.
10 seconds.
Wizard of Oz.
Okay. So help me listen to the arguments here, and then I'll come to you at the end. Avengers versus Wizard of Oz. Brett, you're up first.
Something that takes the fangs out of a Marvel movie is the idea that these guys are superheroes and they've already booked their next film. If they died in the end, it would actually inject stakes into a format that doesn't really have stakes. And you could then figure out that now we know how we're going to reboot it, and we don't have to stay with these characters. We can let whoever would have the best story inform what is the next Avengers movie.
All right.
Bibbs.
Wizard of Oz already has the structure of a movie in which you find out everyone dies at the end. It is a fantasy narrative using characters and actors from the previous portions of the film after a cataclysmic tornado, and everyone learns a valuable lesson. And instead of waking up from a dream, you could just say they all died, and it takes on a different level of tragedy.
Okay, didn't even use all his time. Brett, back to you. 10 seconds.
A central theme of that is there's no place like home, and then you take that away from everybody, like home doesn't exist and everybody's dead. I want people to go back. We already have the idea of a fantasy and it works perfect as is.
I want the Avengers to live. I don't see how you do that movie if they all die. Can you imagine how depressing that would be? Every parent who brought their kid to that movie would have to deal with a screaming child and have to explain to them why everyone they love died today.
Wow. Okay. Really tight for me. Let's go to the couch first. Travis, Lon, thoughts?
As much as I want stakes in a Marvel movie, I have to go with. I just can't remember the name.
Bibbs.
of it.
Bibbs.
Yes,
It's okay.
Yes. No, I can't remember your choice right now.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
Yes, Wizard of Oz. I have to go with Wizard of Oz.
Lon?
Totally disagree. I would love to see an Avengers movie where they all die in the end, and I don't have kids, so I don't care. So I go Brett.
When they're crying.
He got me on the
Great.
Wizard of Oz
know what, I
home
think-
argument too. That's a really that is actually depressing me. But what do you think? Based on their arguments, where are you leaning?
Avengers.
Kill off the Avengers.
Yeah, because I think it comes down to how you're defining better, right? But I genuinely feel that if they were to all die, especially Ultron, they all died and Ultron took over.
Ultron would have
That would have been dope. I mean, it would have been dope. There would have actually been stakes, and all of a sudden, like, now the Avengers have to, like, they're all dead, so it's like the
Who's gonna take the
now
mantle?
all of a sudden, now all of a sudden your Spider-Man movie makes more sense because it's all of a sudden like Spider-Man's like, oh my god, the Avengers are all dead. What do I
They
do?
love each other
and
now.
then they're like, with great power comes great responsibility, Spider-Man.
I love it.
Yeah.
I agree. Brett gets the point.
I love you. I want to say I fight hard.
I had themes, damn it.
Oh, play it back, Brett. Here we go. No, it's all good. It's a passionate show. All right, here we go. Let's see. I'm going to name two actors. You have to tell me who's better.
Wow.
Which is the best of these two? Ready? Meryl Streep or Daniel Day-Lewis?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Meryl Streep.
Okay. Brett, you spoke first. Time begins.
Take
You
my
begin
jacket
speaking.
off because this is getting heated.
It's getting sexy in here.
Nope, that didn't count. Yes, it did. All right, we're in. Daniel Day-Lewis has transformed himself into so many different characters in a way that just brings a giant gravity to it, and he hasn't done as much. So every single movie he's in is that much more of an investment of what is he going to do next, and I feel like he is responsible for so much.
He's done so many, but he hasn't done as much. Meryl Streep, in the course of her career, has done multiple movies per year a lot of the time, in which it gets performances that are comparable to Daniel Day-Lewis. There's a reason she's one of our most celebrated, most versatile actors. She fits in any movie, any genre, you name it. This is the same woman who did The River Wild and Sophie's Choice and nailed all of them in between. I defy you to find me a bad Meryl Streep performance.
10 seconds, Brett.
There's too much damn Meryl Streep. I'm tired of her. She's diluting her brand by being in everything. She just takes money for whatever and just does it. And yeah, I think that the specter of Meryl Streep is more than the actual Meryl Streep.
Bibbs, 10 seconds.
Daniel Day-Lewis has been around for a very long time, and he's only made a very small number of movies. Yeah, those performances are good, but they actually don't demonstrate the range you think they do. Gangs of New York and There Will Be Blood are actually very similar performances on a technical level.
Whew. All right, he was repeating himself, but then he got a nice little snipe there at the end, and wow, Brett went for it and didn't go overrated, but did say overextended. Hey, what do you think, based on the arguments?
I mean, again, we're talking about two people who have spent their entire careers branding themselves as great actors, right?
And successfully.
And that's kind of what you're both saying.
Right.
No, I was saying Daniel Day-Lewis because there's like a diversity in his role choice, which you can argue that Meryl Streep has diluted her brand recently by just kind of playing Meryl.
Wow, so you're going with Brett.
Yeah.
Why did you say it like that?
Because he's wrong.
No, I mean, look, like
I don't disagree.
Saying who's
you're based on these arguments, though.
You're picking two. Your choices are two people who couldn't be more radically different. So it's like literally comparing McDonald's to Starbucks. You're like, one sells burgers and one's like high-end coffee.
Well, and you got to where he echoes. You got me with the sort of every single movie becomes sort of you're invested more because of the choices he makes. Where Meryl does dilute, which is a fascinating point. But let's go to the couch real quick.
I don't know. I feel like Bibbs gave Brett a great opening by saying like you can't really name a bad Meryl Streep performance, and then Brett didn't name one.
You can't name one. Yeah, there's a lot of them, but find me one.
To me, that sort of means like, well, Bibbs gets the point. Like the opening was that's where you name the bad Meryl Streep performance.
Yeah.
I think, was she in Into the Woods or something?
She was in Into the Woods.
She is.
Into the Woods.
I would have accepted that.
Could have thrown it out there.
Would have taken Into the Woods. Would have accepted.
I think what it comes down to is between Meryl Streep and Daniel Day-Lewis, who is more likely to do a Marvel movie? Who is more likely to be in a Marvel movie?
Meryl Streep.
Yes.
That makes her awesome.
Which means Daniel Day-Lewis is more of a pure actor.
It's true. But
That
that would have been interesting if you had
That is a long way around.
You didn't. I'm giving Bibbs the point. I agree. If you had just
you're
named,
right to do that.
If you had just named a film, I think I would have added. You were very close, surprisingly, but there you go.
I didn't come up with a film, and I tried really hard.
Yes, you did.
And I just
So that
couldn't
was
think of
telling.
any. And when I
Was that the second one, right?
It was because you could have said Meryl Streep's funny and Daniel Day-Lewis is not. And that's
Okay,
hard.
here we go.
Actually,
Number 3. Here we go. What animated film should Hollywood definitely never adapt to live action?
Ghost in a Shell. What?
Well, that wouldn't have counted anyway. Good.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Well, that studio's never working with me.
What live action? Fantasia.
All right.
It's a funny idea.
Bibbs, you're first.
In addition to being one of the best movies ever made, My Neighbor Totoro is an inherently Japanese tale told in an inherently Japanese way. In order to make this movie in a Hollywood way and spend the millions of dollars you would need to make all of those monsters, you would have to add so much plot and incident and nonsense and completely ruin a story about two girls dealing with their mother's illness in a magical land. I gotta go on.
Fantasia.
Fantasia is a unique experience to a point in time when that kind of animation worked really well. If Disney goes ahead and makes a live action version of it, it would just expose them for being just money-making whores who will do anything just to say, we made it with real stuff. It would be the low point and the end of that whole movement, and I think they have others that they need to make first.
All right.
Bibbs.
They don't need to be exposed as money-making whores. They've already gone there full bore so many times already. I saw Beauty and the Beast. It counts. Look, Fantasia is just pictures to music. Live-action movies do that all the time. Totoro is a narrative they screw up.
10 seconds.
At least it has a narrative to adapt. This is, to answer the question, it is a long music video. If they did it, there would be nothing to watch. It would be absolutely terrible.
There's
Leave it
Fantasia.
alone.
They already have that to watch.
All right, Lon, Travis, based on the arguments.
I'm gonna have to go with. I keep forgetting the names.
Bibbs.
Yeah, no, I have to go with his choice. Fantasia would just be a bunch of brooms and mops dancing. Or I don't see how that would be a movie.
Wait, so that's correct.
It's what would be
It'll be
bad
worse.
one.
What
What would
should
be the
not?
worst
What
one?
should never?
Oh, yeah, no, Fantasia then. No, it should
Correct.
Lon?
never.
I'm going with Bibbs again. I like the point about how it's like, so sort of tied up in this kind of small, low-key Japanese story, and like, Fantasia, Sorcerer's Apprentice, like you could make some of that work maybe.
Thoughts?
So I have a 3-picture directing deal with Disney. So when I say that they are they embrace the money grubbingness of it all, like that's part of their DNA. Well, I should not have said that.
Doesn't matter.
As long as you don't show an actual orangutan, you'll
They
be
have
fine.
stockholders. They need to make money.
I give the point to you. Here's why. Your thing should not be made. Fantasia, I actually think should absolutely be made. I think that I would actually work very well as a live-action Disney reboot or remake or reimagining or whatever the hell they're calling it this week of Fantasia.
It's
I
just
think,
silent cinema with music.
yeah, it's awesome. Like it would work. So imagine a Pixar version of that. Like the.
Those hippopotamuses dancing in real life.
Yeah, it's dope.
I can see it. Bibbs
Even
gets the
the VR
point.
experience.
Yes. Bibbs also gets the game.
Great work, Bibbs. You did really great.
Bravo.
I'm the god! Growl, growl.
You did it. Made it on your first episode and you won. Wow.
Dominated. Look at that
Brett,
score.
I'm
Good for
sorry.
me.
Hey, I actually like this Adlai Stevenson perpetual loser thing I've kind of carved out
Kind of
for
a good
myself.
gig. One day we'll have to have like fireworks.
You're the Washington Generals of movie fights.
The generals are due. They have to win sometime.
I gotta thank all of our guests. William Bibbiani, thank you for being here from Schmodown and Cancel Too Soon. Crave Online. Anything else you'd like to mention?
I'm also the host of the B Movies podcast, but seriously, my new one is Cancel Too Soon. We review television series that lasted 1 season or less. We've got a lot of good stuff. We're doing the MST3K Rift On series. The Master with Lee Van Cleef is a white ninja. So if you didn't like Iron Fist either, this would be a fun one to start. Cancel
Cool.
Too Soon.
Love it.
Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, everything.
Brett Ehrlich, host of Pop Trigger on the Young Turks. Thank you for being here. Anything you'd like to plug?
What the Flick, another thing, you do it as well, so we will see both of us at some point or another on What the Flick. What the Flick Show. So youtube.com/What the Flick Show.
Because it's a show and not just a flick.
And also, What the Flick was probably taken.
Let's just throw show at the end. Asian Core, thank you so much for being here. Wonderful to have you, and thanks for risking so many of your own contacts.
Yeah.
I think you'll be fine. It's all an act. It's all for a game.
It's all in good fun. I have to argue against movies I love. I love the Shawshank
that's what we have to
Redemption. That's
do.
a great
It's
movie.
hard to argue against
I'm
Meryl
not going
Streep.
to complain about that.
Anything you'd like to plug?
No, not really. I mean, just follow me like me on Facebook, I guess, because I love interacting with people. They ask me questions, and I love that.
Dude, see his movies.
Yeah. So much
Like
fun.
I haven't loved everything you've done, but when you're on fire, you're on fire. The Gray is awesome. Dread is awesome, and The Voices.
Yeah, we want
is
more
one
Dread.
of the most underrated horror movies of the last 5-10 years. It is so great, and I wish more
I
people
feel
would
like
see
I
that.
fucked up that. Can I say that? I'm
Yeah, you
sorry.
can say
I
it.
feel like I fucked up because the script was a pure horror movie, and I kept making decisions on set with Marjan Satrapi, the director, that turned it more into like the dark comedy.
He made it like a bit of a
territory.
John Waters movie. I think that makes it a better movie, but it did make it harder to market.
Well,
Right.
let's talk about this after the fight. We'll be real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Lon Harris, thank you for fact checking, stepping in for Dan. Great job. Anything you'd like to say?
No, just had a great time. Thanks for watching. And at LONS, follow me on Twitter.
Yes, people send them. You're a good person to send the topics to. I'm sending them your way to leave me alone.
Please do. Yes, bother me. I love it. Send me all your questions.
Our questions and comes up with the questions. So there you go. Travis of Marvel, so good to have you finally on the show. Thanks for being a fan.
Thank you guys.
You're an OG
man,
and I appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much, and I can't wait to be back one day.
I dig those goggles, man.
good.
Yeah,
Thank
those are
you
cool. He's the
so
fifth
much.
turtle.
He's a Ninja
Thank
Turtle,
you.
you guys.
Yeah, good shirt too. But
you.
awesome, Travis. Always good to see you.
ditch
Thank you for being here.
those,
Thank you all at home for
He's
watching. We will see you next
I wouldn't
week.
say.
Thanks
Better.
so much. Have a
Take
great
it
one.
off.
And after the fight, real quick after this. Bye bye.